Welcome, everyone. I am Tina Games, Regional Commissions Director for the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women. I want to welcome all of you this evening. We are delighted that you will be joining us for our first in-person advocacy day in over 3 years. So welcome, welcome, welcome. And tonight we do have a PowerPoint presentation that we are going to be showing here shortly. But again, want to welcome everyone that's coming into the room. Our advocacy day is Wednesday, May 31st, from 11 until 3. Registration and breakfast start at 10 o'clock. So just wanted to give you that timeline. And I am being joined this evening by State Commissioner Meredith Tuitt, who is our Chair of Legislative and Public Policy, and she is going to be leading us this evening through an advocacy day training. And at the end, we are going to take your questions and go through the timeline of the day a little bit more in detail. So again, welcome everyone. And with this, I'm going to turn our presentation over to State Commissioner Meredith Tuitt.
Good evening, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome, welcome. Glad you're here. As Tina Games has just stated, this is going to be our first year in-person advocacy day at the State House. And we are so excited that all of you have decided to join us. And we hope when you come that you're going to be coming with friends and family. So we are going to jump right into the slide presentation and advocacy, how to be effective.
And Meredith, you are on mute. And while Meredith is unmuting here, I've just dropped in the chat for everyone a list of the state's legislative priorities. So if you can check your chat, there is a PDF copy of the legislative priorities. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Commissioner Tuitt.
Okay, how to advocate effectively. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. And we're doing this because when we talk about Advocacy Day, and we've talked to many of our supporters and the women and the young girls that are actively working with us around advocacy, they always say to us, well, can we have like a pre-training? We usually try to do it on Advocacy Day itself, which is like crushed and rushed and so on. So we decided to do this training before Advocacy Day could kind of get you a little bit more time. All right. So we're going to go into how to actively advocate effectively. See, I'm having a struggle now that this. So Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women is an independent state agency. And we are charged with reviewing the status of women in the Commonwealth and also the status of young women in the Commonwealth. I'm making recommendations regarding policy that would improve the access to opportunities and equalities here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for women and girls. Next slide. So our annual Advocacy Day, it says annual because that's something that we've always done. We always focus in on our legislative priorities annually, but in all honesty, it's every 2 years. So we launched the first year of the term with our Advocacy Day, and then we advocate and lobby throughout the following year, 2 years, until the end of the term of the elected officials, right? So it gives us an opportunity to release our annual report and all of the findings while advocating for our legislative priorities. And all of our legislative priorities and our findings and everything that is in our annual report comes from our hearings. It comes from our community conversations. It comes from emails and phone calls from women and girls across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And since there's 19 state commissioners and 11 regional commissions, we hear many things from all across the Commonwealth. So that's why we have Advocacy Day, so we could be able to talk about the priorities that we've come across with that. So we do a lot of that by engaging, as you know, our regional commissions, our partnering organizations, and members of the public in the discussion of policy through the lens of gender equality. Next slide. So why do you advocate? Why do we should you advocate? To get support for an issue or legislative bill that is going to impact you, your lifestyle, or your community, right? So your experience and your voice matter. When we say your experience and your voice matter, we truly mean that, because we know if you're passionate about something and there's something in your life that you have experienced that can tell and talk about that issue, this is what we want you to do. It matters because women are 51% of the population, but we occupy very few elected seats across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. This year, 2023, we have made remarkable changes. We have a governor, we have a lieutenant governor, we have a treasurer, we have an auditor. We have, wow, we are doing fabulous so far, but we have to continue the work, right? Our legislators are elected to represent the interests of their constituents, which are you and me. It's our responsibility, our civic responsibility, to use our voice and use our power. Be it Democrat, Republican, whichever party you sit in. If you're unenrolled and you're just actively involved in something, and we ask you to use your responsible vote to take care of advocating for your issue. Next slide. How do you advocate? So first, you must know and establish a relationship with your legislator and or their aides. Then we ask that you educate yourself about the issue that you care about and that might affect your community. So for example, I'm going to give an example before we go really into the bill. Sometimes I like to do it in a term that you would understand. You know what they say, if you make it too term worthy, it just confuses people. So say for example, I love shoes. So if there was a bill to legislate free shoes across the Commonwealth, I would know how to advocate for that, because I can talk about how shoes are important to me, especially stilettos, right? So understand what you're talking about and what you care about, and effectively speak about that when you go to talk to your legislator or their aide. We also say to you, please be courteous to the aide, be courteous to the staff, because they are the eyes, the ears, and the right hand of their boss, your elected official, right? So next we're going to talk about how to understand the legislative process also. And we're going to show you how to assess your resources and identify your goals. So next slide. Legislative process. So legislative process starts with an idea. There ought to be a law. So as I said, I want shoes to be free across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. So I've decided that I want my shoes and I want them to be free. So I will go to my state elected official, be it my state representative or my state senator, and I would say to that person, I would like you to file a petition or bill to support free shoes across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts on August 20th every year. My elected official will say, okay, and we will write the language and we create this bill. And that's exactly what we did in MCSW. We went to our elected officials and we asked them to file a bill for us. And we're going to talk about that bill a little further on in this presentation, but that's what we did, and the bill was filed. When the bill is filed, you get what you call a docket number. So our state representative on the House side filed the bill. So we got a House docket number assigned to that bill. The bill is then reviewed and registered by the clerk's office, and it is then brought to the full body, and it gets assigned to the appropriate committee that would focus in on that issue. When it gets assigned to the committee, it loses the D. So it's no longer HD, whatever, whatever, whatever. It now becomes H00, the bill number, right? So now it's assigned to the appropriate committee. My bill would go to possibly would go to, like, say, for example, housing or economic development. So it would get assigned to that appropriate committee. That committee would then schedule a hearing and open the door for testimonies to be heard about that bill. After the testimonies and everything was heard at that hearing, the committee then sits down and makes a decision on what they think about the bill. Should they move it forward? Should they make amendments to the bill? Should they freeze the bill where it is to have more consideration about it, more research on it? Well, our bill today was moved forward by the committee, and it was sent to bill in first reading. First reading means it goes to the floor of the chamber. When it gets to the floor of the chamber after first reading, then you have the debate on the floor. The elected officials would stand and talk in support or in opposition of that bill. And after they do their conversations and they do their debates, they would make a decision about that bill. When they make the decision, if there's enough votes to move it forward, that bill is then sent to third reading, right? After the bill is sent to third reading, the third reading committee would then review the bill, review the amendments or changes or notes that were made on that bill. And they would look at it and see if they want to keep the amendments, take the amendments back out, or if they want to add more amendments. If the bills in third reading committee adds more amendments, the bill then gets passed through third reading with a new number. That new number will now follow the bill the rest of its way with all of the changes that were made. Now it goes back to the floor, a vote is taken, and 2/3 bill passed to be engrossed by the House of Representatives. It is, next slide, it is then moved to the next session, which is the second legislative branch, which is the Senate. The Senate would do their process. Third reading will review, we'll look at all of the notes, the Senate debate notes, the Senate amendments, and all of the same process as the House did, the Senate would do. Now, once it goes through third reading, and all of those amendments and everything now are made on that bill, House and Senate would create a conference committee. And that conference committee, if it's 6 members, 7 members, would review all of the House amendments and changes and the Senate amendment and changes and mesh those together and bring it all back into one fluid, smooth bill. Now that bill is then moved to be enacted and sent to the governor's office. Once it gets to the governor's office and the governor is reviewed, now this bill has been enacted by the House, it has been enacted by the Senate, it gets to the governor reviews it. He might like it, he might not like it. If he doesn't like it, he has the ability to veto that bill and say he doesn't like the way it's worded, if there's something in it he doesn't approve of and he thinks need to be reviewed or looked at again, or maybe he just doesn't like the complete bill. He can veto that bill. So once that bill is vetoed and it comes back to the legislative body has an ability to go back and override with 2/3 vote the governor's veto. So if the governor's veto gets overridden by a 2/3 vote of the legislative body, that bill then gets moved on to become law. So, next slide. So throughout this process, you have all of your 200 elected officials in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts reviewing a bill, talking about the bill, making amendments to the bill, discussing what they believe is right or wrong about that bill and if there should be any changes and so on. It gets enacted, it gets passed, it gets signed into law. We have impact policy change, right? It has gone through the legislative process, and we've gotten support, and we've received a new law in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. Now, you have done this. You have impacted the change through your advocacy and through telling your stories, right? So depending on your goal, depending on your perspective and your resources for your strategies, it might shift. Your strategy might shift. You might look at it in a different manner of how to approach your elected officials to get all of this done, to get this impact done on this policy. For example, it could be advocacy days such as MCSW does. We do the lobbying in the building, person to person, face to face, but we also do letters, we do emails, and we do phone calling, right? Next slide. So what we want you to expect on MCSW's Advocacy Day, we are going to have informational materials, we're going to have instructions, verbal and written, and you'll get a folder when you register in that we'll give you. Each attendee will be grouped for your constituent visits. So if you live in Suffolk 7, we're going to group you with others that live in Suffolk 7. We're not going to have Suffolk 7 with an Essex because you're not going to see the same legislators. And we want you to see your legislator, right? We ask that when you go in and you meet with your legislator, we want you to make sure you say thank you. We want you to make sure you say, can you please support us? Things like that. It's always a good thing when you talk to the legislator and the staff to always be appreciative of their time. Next slide. So visiting the office, introduce yourself. Good day, my name is Meredith Tewitt. I live in the city of Boston. I live in Dorchester. I reside in 7 area, and I'm a constituent. I'm here today because I'm participating with the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women's Advocacy Day. And I voted for you because I believe in you and I support you. If it's not the legislator and it's the aide, you want to say, your boss, my legislator, I'm here because I've supported and voted for them. I want to thank you for giving us this opportunity to meet with you and to talk to you, and state the importance of the bill or the legislation and our priority list that you're carrying with you that day, right? When you talk about the bills on the list, we ask you to review everything before you go to meet with your legislator. You want to talk about how the bill might impact you or your community. For example, one of the bills that we will be talking about that day is just a resolve, not just, but it's a resolution where we're asking all of the 200 legislators in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to support the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women on the fact that the COVID-19 created had a disproportionate impact on women and girls in the Commonwealth, especially women of color, right? So we want you to be able to review it, to know how to talk about it and to tell your story, right? And of course, opportunity for them to ask you questions and you to ask them questions, right? Always capture your notes. We're going to have some note sheets in the folder for you to be able to do that also. Next slide. Our priority legislation. So the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women, priority legislation this year, we've put 10 into the presentation and the slide slow, but it's about 17 that we have. We also have what we call new legislation we're looking at and ongoing legislation that we are bringing over from the previous term that was refiled, that we serve on the coalitions. We feel that they need to be a priority, and we need to continue moving towards getting that passed into law. We also have in our folder, we have our regional commissions priorities, the state commission priorities that overlap with our regionals, and the regional specific priorities that are just for their areas, right? And then we also have a section that we'll call bills to watch, our endorsed bills that we're asking you to watch and support and help us move along. As you see on our legislative priorities, you have the resolution recognizing the disproportionate impact of COVID-19 on women and girls, especially women of color in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. It was filed by State Representative Brandy Fluker Oakley. It's been referred to the Committee on House Rules, and this is a resolve that we put the language together and asked her to file. Our second, well, not second, the next bill is act relative to birth and justice in the Commonwealth. We have been focusing in on maternity and maternal care throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts for quite some time, but the COVID 2020 year gave us the ability to do a deeper dive into birth and rights and birth and justice here in the Commonwealth. So this is another reason why we support this bill, filed by Senator Miranda. Next slide. So, an act providing reproductive health care to incarcerated individuals. This year, we were able to split our bills into different categories. And as you can see here, these two bills are focused on incarcerated individuals. We have incarcerated sisters who are struggling with so many different things, struggling with healthcare issues, struggling with maternal care issues, struggling. We supported previously a few years back, removing the shackles from our incarcerated sisters when they're in labor and delivery. We are still pushing that bill to have that completely enacted in our prison system, because there are some that still, the guards still don't feel comfortable removing the shackles. But as you might know, as a woman, when you're in labor, you're not getting up to run anywhere, right? So these two bills are two new ones that we're focusing on with our sisters that are incarcerated, being able to do reentry back into the communities as a positive returning citizen, also to focus in on their human rights. All right, next slide. So parents running for public office, and parents running for public office is a bill that we've been supporting for a couple of years now, quite a few years. This is a refile back into the system. We serve on the commission, on the coalition. We serve trying to move this forward, because on the federal level, if you're running for office, you have the ability to use campaign funds to help with your child care. Here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, if you're running for office and you have young people, you sometimes have to take them outdoor knocking with you because you don't have the child care. You don't have the means and the funding to be able to do that. And we're asking the Commonwealth of Massachusetts to support our parents, be it male or female, to be able to use their campaign funds to help their child care needs. An act to increase access to disposable menstrual products. I know you're saying, wow, why is that on there? But we have sections in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts where, including our prison system, where hygiene products are not free. You have to pay for them. In the incarcerated, in our prison, the women have to pay out of their canteen dollars for their hygiene products, tampons and pads, and they're not cheap when they come through those vendors, right? So these are the reasons why this bill is important also, and our school systems within our prison systems and so on, right? Next slide. So to ensure legal parentage equality here in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. What we've done, again, as we've broken into different categories, this one falls into our LGBTQ and trans community, where our parents, our same-sex parents, are struggling with the rights of being a parent. So we've decided to go ahead and focus in on bills that are going to impact that community this year. And this is one of those bills. And as you can see, we are now focusing not just on gender issues, we're focusing on bills that would stabilize our families, stabilize our communities. And climate change is one of those, right? Providing for climate change adaptation, infrastructure, and affordable housing investments in the Commonwealth is so important on our communities, on our families' stabilization. So these are things that we're looking at this year, not just gender. Next slide. Establishing Medicare for all in Massachusetts. Medicare for all, when it comes to healthcare, we know that if the female body of the family is not healthy, if the parent, the adult stabilizer of the family is not healthy, then the family is not healthy. So we are focusing on Medicare for all across Massachusetts. Then we are now also focusing on our veteran sisters across the Commonwealth. We have a study, Women Veterans, Long-Term Effects of Combat on Motherhood. And this is another new thing for us too, to be able to focus in on different categories within the priorities that we are looking at this year. Next slide. That should bring us down to conclusion. There are a great many bills introduced each legislative session and supported by the commission that affect women and girls across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. We try to focus in on as many bills that we can that would impact change, because women and girls comprise 51% of the population, and all bills affect us to some extent. This year, there was 6,233 bills filed. So can imagine narrowing it down to 18 bills on our priority list and more than 15 on our endorsed list is a big thing. But we know that all bills affect us in some extent. Our priority legislation list allows us to focus our limited resources on a few important bills, which will have major impact on women and girls in the Commonwealth. Advocacy Day is a chance for our legislators to hear the personal stories of women and girls and whose lives have been affected by these issues that these bills address. I know we might have some brothers on here with us. I apologize that I focus in and say women and girls all the time, but we know that without you as our allies, without the men being advocates also for these issues, it would not be, it wouldn't be productive. We need our men, we need our brothers, our husbands, and so on to be a part of Advocacy Day with us. Next slide. It should bring me down to questions, right? There we go. So any questions that you might have for us?
Yes, so everyone, thank you. It looks like we do have a few questions. And as we take a look at those, you are welcome to drop your questions in the chat. You can raise your virtual hand. I do see some questions. So let me just kind of scroll back up and just see. Okay, yes. So a couple of people do have some questions about specific legislation. So I do see your questions in the chat. You are very welcome. If you want, you can ask that specific question in this chat or just raise your virtual hand. Diana, let's see, I'm reading your question. Yes, so feel free, Diana, if you just want to put something in the chat, that's fine, or you're welcome to raise your hand. And then we have another one. When questions come up, could you discuss at what point a bill is closed off from having more legislators sign on to co-sponsor?
So when the legislative term starts and they open up, I'm not sure the exact date, but when they open up for bill filing at the end of January, they give about, I think it's 3 weeks to file the bills. When you file your bill, you can file it with petitioners already listed with supporters, other legislators already listed. And then it goes to the clerk's office, and it's in the clerk's office for, I think, about 4 days, where other legislators can add on their names and join that. But that doesn't stop them from adding on later. They just won't be listed in the bill petition list, but they can always sign on as sponsors and supporters. And the legislator that is the main petitioner can say, okay, this person is signed on, but it just doesn't get listed in the bill itself when it gets sent to, if it doesn't make it before it gets sent to the assigned committee.
Okay, thank you for that. And everyone, if you do have questions, okay, good. Yeah, the person responded and said that's very helpful. If you could, everyone that's posting questions, if you want to send them to everyone. Okay. I did get a couple of questions that came to me directly. Unfortunately, I'm just now seeing them because I had the screen share going. I have another question from Susan Lee. Is there a way to find out in advance which bills our legislators support? And we could focus on those they are hesitant about.
Yes. So they, if you go to the masslegislators.gov website, mass.gov legislators, and you select on your legislator, it'll give you what they've filed, which ones they've petitioned themselves. A lot of times it doesn't tell you which ones they've co-signed or co-petitioned, but it'll give you the ones that they've filed themselves. And you can also, and sometimes, and I suggest to people, send an email to your legislator and say to your legislator, you know, who you are, introduce yourself as I stated earlier, and say, I would like to know what bills you're supporting this year, you know, and their staff will have their list also to send out, because they want you to support their bills as much as we want them to support our bills.
Yes, thank you. Any other questions? You are welcome to put them in the chat. Since I'm back on, you can send them directly to me or to everyone. You can also raise your virtual hand. And while we're waiting for some more questions, I just want to take a moment to reiterate that we do have 11 regional commissions. And I know many of you are coming from across the state to join us on Advocacy Day. So when you get your packet, when you come to check in, again, we'll have registration set up between 10 and 11. And during that time, you'll come in, get your packet. You can have some breakfast. We have tables set up by regions. And the reason we're doing this is to just give coalition partners, our regional commissioners, organizations, an opportunity to network with each other. So you will be directed to your regional tables, and also in your packet, in addition to the state's legislative priorities, you'll be getting a copy of your regional commission priorities. Some of our regional commissions have the same priorities as the state. It is the job of all of us to support and endorse the state's priorities, but regionals also have their priorities based on what they're hearing from constituents in their region. So you can expect to also have a separate list of regional priorities. So you're going to be looking at a few different bills upon your arrival. Also, this information will come to you later this week. It will be in your packet, but it also is our intention to be sending you information ahead of time by email to give you an opportunity to review it before you join us. So you can look for an email from me probably later this week, probably Thursday. Any other questions coming from our group this evening?
Okay. I just wanted to acknowledge that Chair of Program and Planning, Rebecca Back, is on here with us. She's off camera, but she is on Advocacy Day, it's Legislative Chair and Program and Planning. So she's the powerhouse when it comes to the planning for Advocacy Day with the staff for our upcoming event. So I just want to acknowledge she's on here with us.
Yes. Thanks, Meredith. I'm off camera because I forgot my webcam at my office and I'm at home today. And I want to tell all of you that everything I know about program and planning I learned from Meredith, and everything that goes well about Advocacy Day is because of our amazing staff. So I'm just here to learn and advocate with the rest of you. And thank you for the shout out, Meredith.
Thank you for being with us this evening. So we
Yes.
do have another question. Will participants be requested to speak only to the MCSW and regional bills? What about other bills that concern visitors?
So we asked, Penelope, it's good to see you. Welcome, welcome. We are asking everyone that day, we're going to mention and remind everyone that day you're here for MCSW Advocacy Day. If there's another bill that you would like to focus in on and talk about with your legislator, we ask that while you're in there that day, either if you can't schedule another date with the legislator, with the staff, with the aide, please let us know what the bills are that you might be speaking of and what's in our book, in our folder, because this is MCSW's Advocacy Day, and we are asking you to push our priorities for that day. Does that help?
Yes. And you're welcome, Penn. If you want to just reach out to me, we can touch base maybe this evening or tomorrow if there are some bills that you have in mind, or any of you that you're not seeing on the state's legislative priorities. Because as Meredith said, this is our opportunity to really promote the legislation that we want to see passed. So we do ask that you support our state bills, our regional bills that we are endorsing, and certainly very welcome to hear about other bills. You can certainly direct them to my attention, and I'll make sure that Meredith and Rebecca here and the other state commissioners get a copy of what you're looking to hopefully talk about. But they do have to align with our mission and our priorities. So that's kind of what we're looking at. And somebody did, yes.
No.
And thank you.
So two other questions. So Matthew, I understand you can't be in person, but we do have written letters and so on that you can email, so we can get that tool that out to you also. Kathy, you didn't miss the Common Start. Common Start, as I stated in the beginning, we put 10 on, but our priority list is about 16 or 17 long. Common Start is on our priority list. It just didn't make it onto this slide. I apologize for that. I was out of the country when we were working on the slides, and I just asked them to put 10 in and not the full 17. I didn't want the presentation to be too long, but Common Start is there. We are on the steering committee. We are on the coalition. It is part of it. All right.
Yeah. And I'll also take this opportunity, especially with Common Start, half of our regional commissions, that is part of their regional priorities. So for those of you coming from Cape Cod and the islands, and I know there are a few of you here this evening, that is in their top 5 regional priorities. So when you join us on Advocacy Day, in your packet, you will see Cape Cod and the Islands Regional Commission. You'll see the Common Start as one of their priority bills. That regional commission will be there, strongly advocating for Common Start, and we ask for you to support that list as well.
Thank you, thank you. Susan, yes, Common Start includes childhood education, funding, pre-K programs, funding for home. So that is the Common Start bill you're talking about.
Yep. Yeah, it's called the Common Start, I think. And yes, Senator Sue Moran is one of the key writers or key support sponsors of that bill. So yes, I'm dropping my email in the chat here for anyone that wants to reach out to me directly. If there is a question about a particular bill that you're not seeing on the regional priority list or on the state list, please do reach out to me, and I'll direct that over to Commissioner Tuitt, and we'll take a look at it. Yes.
Marie, the full list is included in the packet, in the toolkit. This list was just what was also, like I said, the quick for the presentation and quick for the press release. So, but the full list is in the packet. So, yes. Ellen is not Ellen, Shalay is not on here. Tina, is the full toolkit being sent out to everyone before Advocacy Day, or are they only getting it on Advocacy Day?
Yeah, we will be sending a kind of a digital packet to you. It will probably go out on Thursday. So in that digital packet, we're going to be sending to you the state's legislative priorities that do include some of those endorsed bills that you didn't see this evening. And we're also going to include the list of the regional commission that's aligned to where you live. So just know that you're going to get an email from me on Thursday. It'll be kind of set up by region.
Yeah.
Yes. And also, let's see, I'm going to shout out Mia Remington here this evening. For the first time ever, we are having a girls track at our
Nope,
advocacy.
not the first time ever.
Oh, okay, sorry, not the first time ever. My apologies. So, well,
sorry to correct you. Sorry to correct you, but we were doing girls track for a long time, and then we had to stop the girls track because we weren't giving the girls enough attention on the girls track. So we are bringing it back. We're
bringing it back. My
Yeah.
apologies. We're bringing it back. But we have about 65 girls joining us on Advocacy Day, and a group from the Athena Council, which is the Youth Advisory Council for our Metro West Commission, will actually be part of our morning speaking program. And Mia, who is in the room with us this evening, is the chairperson of that council. So I'm really, really delighted. There you are. Hi, Mia. So we're delighted to have our young women and our girls with us as part of our speaking program. And so Mia, thank you very much, because you all have been working really, really hard on the IM bill and mental health. And so we thank you for your good work, and we'll look forward to hearing more about that at Advocacy Day. So thank you. Any other questions, anyone? And just again, for the timeline, so when you arrive, we're in the Great Hall at the State House. So you'll come in and you'll register, you'll get your packet. Again, breakfast will be available up until 11. And then you go into the main room, the Great Hall, and you'll find your regional tables. We do have a morning speaking program from 11 to 11:45. And then from 11:45 to 12:30, we've got a special training that we're doing for the girls track. The rest of you will enjoy your lunch, and then you'll go on to your legislative visits. We do have legislative visits set with your senators and your representatives. Those will happen between 12 and 2, and everybody's got varied times, just so we can spread everybody out a little bit. So just know between 12 and 2, the legislative visits will be happening. Lunch will be kind of mixed in there as well. And then we're going to call everybody back at around 2:15 in the Great Hall. We will have a photo opportunity up on that beautiful grand staircase at about 2:30. So we'll take a nice group photo, and then everybody is free to network until 3, and then the Advocacy Day will end at 3 o'clock. So any questions, any other questions? Mia, anything you'd like to say on behalf of the Athena Council?
All I can say is that I'm just so excited for the council to be able to join you guys for Advocacy Day this year. I think it's especially important in such a changing world that younger generations are heard, because we are the future, and I'm really excited on what we can bring to the table. So thank you so much for this opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you. We're delighted. So delighted to hear from you this year. Thank you. All right. Any other questions before we end our training this evening? All right. Seeing none, Commissioner Tuitt, any closing words?
Yes, I want to say thank you, everyone that's registered to come Advocacy Day. Those of you that aren't able, are looking, thank you for your support to send your email to your legislator. All of the young sisters that are going to be coming, I'm excited to see you guys in person, and look forward to seeing all of you, some new and some old that I know already, at the State House. And come picture ready, come ready, come ready. Thank you.
Yes, it's going to be a wonderful time. All back in person again. So this is going to be a fun time. So we look forward to seeing all of you. Thank you again for your good work, and thank you for supporting the Massachusetts Commission on the Status of Women and our 11 regional commissions. We appreciate you very, very much, and look forward to seeing you on May 31st for our Advocacy Day. So have a good evening, everyone. Thank you.